So, as you guys know, I'm doing a whole series on how to promote your podcast on social media. Now, granted, I did a whole thing in the marketing of how to market your podcast, but we're going a little bit deeper. And this week, we're talking about how to promote your podcast on TikTok. My name is Anna Agogo, and I'm the founder, creative director here at Adode Media, a full-service creative agency specializing in everything from podcast production, social media marketing, branding and design, and we even have a 2,000 square foot studio here in Atlanta, Georgia. So let's go ahead and dive into how you're gonna go ahead and stand out on TikTok. Now, granted, when I did this video, TikTok still existed. We really don't know the fate of what TikTok is gonna be, but we see that it's here to stay, so it's only important that we start delving into the world of TikTok a little bit more. I'm a millennial, and TikTok, let me just be honest, I've been struggling with it, but I've been figuring out my groove a little bit as we've been promoting the studio over there, as well as working with a few of our clients to get a little bit of buzz. So let's dive into what's been working. One is sharing podcast clips. Now, I know you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, tell me something I don't know already. Hey, I get it. But here's the thing. It's not just, oh, you cut a portion from your episode and you place it on TikTok and it just goes viral. We used to see where that worked really well, but as things change with algorithms and your audience, people are consistently changing in how they consume content. Even TikTok now exploring longer form content because times are changing, like I said. So, with this in mind, you want to look at okay, what are some of the engaging portions of your episode? And I call this what we call a recap of the episode. And that's pulling some of those sometimes salacious, but really important, engaging portions that are hard hitting, that are going to get your audience talking and people tuned in. Like, what's the thing that's grabbing people's attention in that first 3 seconds? Because if you've been watching my content, you know that I always say you have 3 seconds to capture your audience's attention. So when you're cutting clips for TikTok, you want to look at okay, what was some of these big moments that took place throughout the episode? Was there a bombshell? Was there an item that was kind of a cliffhanger? And those are the things you want to throw into TikTok. Think of it as Netflix. You'll hear me utilize a lot of analogies that are very similar to TV because, in essence, your podcast is a media powerhouse. It is a production. I mean, there's lights, there's camera, there's people. And if there isn't, it's going to get there. Trust me. And so, with this in mind, when you are looking at the content or Netflix, what engages you to want to watch a movie is that preview. Like, I think back to Bird Box. I remember with Bird Box, there were so many hard hitting moments that I was like, oh my God, I have to watch this. And granted, it's debatable. I enjoyed it, but it had moments that I was like, oh, so I watched all the good parts. So that's the other piece with cutting clips. You want to make sure you don't provide them with everything. Take one or two pieces that were super hard hitting, that pulled you in, and think of it as the trailer for the episode. I see a lot of people do trailers for their actual overall podcast, but you fail to do so with an episode that's coming out. You can do this beforehand or the day that it drops. You can even do a mix of things, but you want to share those clips. Don't just cut a portion and throw it in there, okay? Item number 2 is you want to show promos of your upcoming episodes. So remember how I talked about sharing a clip from the episode and how you go about it? But I think of a promo as a little bit different. It's kind of some of that behind the scenes content. It is watching you set up for it. Like, people love that. They like to see, oh, something is happening, and you can batch record. Some people record a month ahead of time, but you've already captured the content of you getting ready, you laughing with your guest, you prepping for your questions, like the things you do the night before. Like, those pieces can easily be captured on your phone, and it gives people insights to the fact that, oh, this is fun. Like, it's good to see what happens before the cameras turn on. And that's the whole premise. We are in a day and age in 2024 and beyond where audiences audiences want to see the authenticity, the true. They want to feel connected because let's be honest, as a society, as we've moved towards more social and more online engagement, we're kind of missing out and a little lonely from human contact. So, with this in mind, people don't want to see the perfectly curated feeds. They want to see the messy. They want to see you get your hair done. They want you to throw your hair up. All of those things so that way they can understand what truly goes into putting one episode together. And that's where showing a show promo, an upcoming episode, it's not just promo, oh, hey, I have an episode coming, episode dropping tomorrow. That's bland. That's yesterday. That's so 2020, as the young people say, you know? And so with this in mind, it's taking that one step further of taking the time to set up your tripod as you get your hair done and talk to your audience. Those things kind of help them understand your mindset before the recording took place. And now they're intrigued to see what happened on the episode. I know I would be. Next up is providing tips and sharing your experiences. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, how is this any different than the episode itself? I think this works in two different ways. If you are a show that has guests, I think this works really well because oftentimes when you have a guest, you're focused in on interviewing them, hearing their story. You don't want to monopolize the conversation or take over it. At least you shouldn't be. But with that in mind, that means your audience doesn't always get the opportunity to learn more about your perspective or your insights from the conversation. This is where you can kind of actually break down and take snippets from an episode and then have a dialogue about it without your guests. Now, not saying like you're talking about the guests. Let's be clear. What I mean by this is it's almost like doing a reactionary video that you see, and that's when it's like somebody has a clip and then themselves side by side, but doing a reaction video to your own content. So it's like your guest says something, you guys talked about it on the show, but pulling that clip, taking it over to TikTok and doing kind of a side by side reaction of, when my guest was sharing this, some of the things that were going through my mind were this. And it really took me back to a time of this because you don't want to get into that much detail on the podcast itself. But TikTok, they love like hearing and seeing and connecting. And this is all about building a community around your audience and your show. So with this in mind, you're not just providing tips, but you're providing your experiences. You're showing them your authenticity. Just like as I'm sharing with you my tips and tricks, I'm infusing experiences with my clients. I'm infusing experiences when I first started out with podcasting and what we do here at Adode Media. The whole reason for that is so you can understand and get to know me a little bit better, learn more about my experiences, and this works really well on TikTok. On the tip side, I think that's also dependent on what type of content you have. If you have a how-to podcast, if you have resources and tools through your brand and business for your podcast, 100% make sure you include tips, especially if you talked about like tools and resources in an episode. And it's like, oh, here are tips on how to do that. For example, I recorded a video talking about how to utilize and what tools to utilize for remote podcast recording. Make sure you check that out. But here's the thing. I could also do a TikTok video where I break down like, here are tips for best practices of using these tools. Because all I did in that video was give you an overview of the pricing, the tools that you could utilize, their features, which were their pros and their cons. But if on TikTok, to kind of drive people to want to watch that video, I could go one step further and give tips for best practices. So I can now have, oh, we talked about this tool. Here's some best practices to get the best utilized and the best bang for your buck. So there's ways to repurpose your content onto TikTok so that way you can drive traffic back to your content. And I know you're probably thinking to yourself, this is a lot. And this is why I always say you pick one platform and you perfect it. So we talked about Instagram last week. This week, we're diving into TikTok. So let's go into item number 4. Behind the scenes videos. We've talked about this in the kind of meshing it together of the fact that there's an upcoming, but in between promoting that, hey, go tune into my podcast, go tune into my podcast, and it's like, oh my God, I'm coming. You want to give your audience something other than promo, other than, hey, go tune into my podcast, or I have a new episode dropping. No, give the people more. And that's the thing. Nobody wants to feel like they're constantly being sold to. After a while, it starts to feel like, why do I follow this page? All they ever want me to do is go listen to their podcast. But if you share the behind the scenes of like how you came up with a topic, and you may not have an episode correlated with that, but it keeps you active on the platform while also giving your audience another element to kind of feel more connected with you. You'll hear me say this time and time again. The thing about podcasting is people need to feel like they are connected with you, the individual, and they want to feel like they see themselves in you. And you don't typically like to follow people or even tune into shows that you feel disconnected. You're like, this doesn't resonate with me. And that's why showing those behind the scenes of your experiences, your day to day, or what you feel most comfortable, because that's another piece. You don't have to share like your whole life because everything isn't for social. And if it is for you, that's perfectly fine. But for me, that's a no. And so keep those things in mind. Next up is that posting fresh content. That's why I talked about the behind the scenes, because fresh content means it's not just clips from your episode. It's not just always about the episode, but it's also looking at how do you stay active? Because that's the thing about social in general. They like to reward you for being active on their platform. They like to reward you for, in essence, getting people to show up on this platform time and time and again. So being authentic, but also looking at what's something that you're not seeing in your niche. And this is why it's important to understand other niches as well. So doing that adjacent review, once again, everybody's favorite word over here, say it with me, research. Because with that research, you're able to see, oh, in my niche, we don't really do this. But this niche, they do this really well. And seeing if you can cross or bring it over to your platform and see how it does. Next up is give other podcast recommendations. Now, to build in podcasting, it is important to engage, collaborate, work with, whatever word you want to utilize, have initiatives together with other podcasters who have a platform that are similar to your own. The reason for that is the age old, it's better to you can go further together than you can alone. And the reason for this is they've built an audience, you've built an audience. And if you guys talk about similar or adjacent elements, why not partner together to create some cross promotion and content together on the platform? People love seeing two of their faves come together. I feel like I can never remember the name of their show. I just know their name, which is James and Fuhad. And if you are not familiar with them, they're absolutely hilarious. But some of my favorite episodes that they've done is when they have other podcasts on their show, or they do other snippets on social media with other podcasters, because it's like, oh, I never thought of you two together, but now that I'm seeing it, I like it. Or sometimes it introduces me to other shows that are similar to them. And I'm like, oh, I love this dynamic as well. And so that's the thing, that cross collaboration, it's like, oh, they've built an audience on TikTok. Let me build this audience here too. And you'll notice I said this as well in Instagram, but this is in any type of marketing, whether it's newsletter, blogs, social media. It's always going to be on the list, is collaborating with other content creators and other podcasters, because it introduces you to their audience. Like, you really cannot go wrong there. You know, these people already tune into podcasts. They already like a show similar to yours. So it's a no-brainer. Last but definitely not least, and this is a big one, because I genuinely, with a passion, hate shows that don't do this. And that's engage with your audience. Do not have people on TikTok, messaging, commenting, or reaching out to you, and you are not taking the time to actually respond to anything. Because at that point, you're just posting things for them to interact with, and then you never interact back. So podcasting is very much so, I won't even just say podcasting. Content creation, honestly, is an avenue where people want to connect with you. You're gonna get tired of me saying this, but the whole premise of why I keep saying it is so that way I can drive it home. People want to connect with you. They want to. People are missing human connection. That's really what it boils down to. So with this in mind, it is very important that you you focus in on that, And so if somebody leaves you a comment, don't let it be a month and you're like, oh, I'm just now seeing this. But you've been posting every day. What do you mean you're just now seeing this? This means you're not actually looking at your comments. You're not engaging with your content. And why would I engage with your content if all you're doing is setting in and forget it? Now, I understand podcasting is not your whole life. Over here at Adode Media is what we do, though. And so I get the need to feel like, okay, I just need to put it out there and let somebody else deal with it. And this is honestly why you see podcasts not make it through episode 4, because there are a lot of different elements. But you have to figure out what platform works best for you. We talked about Instagram and you've heard the details around that. Feel free to tune into that video to understand how to promote your podcast there. And now we've talked about how to promote your podcast on TikTok. And you have to ask yourself, which one of these platforms do I feel like I can keep up with? Because if you're trying to be everywhere, you're going to end up being nowhere because it's going to be overwhelming. There's going to be too many moving parts. So let's do a quick recap of the 7 different ways to promote your podcast on TikTok. Item number 1 is sharing podcast clips. Now, granted, of course, you can't just cut a clip from the straight up episode and throw it in there, or you can get a little creative like what we do here at Adode Media. We create what we call recap episodes, or I should say recap reels, which are able to basically cut different elements that are really engaging and turn that into a reel with sound effects and music so that this way it pulls your audience in. Item number 2 is show promos for upcoming episodes. And so that's thinking of different ways that you can pull your audience in. I even have a podcast that we work with that they do little illustrations and animations, but I wouldn't recommend that. That's just because the host is an actual illustrator. Item number 3 is provide tips and share your experiences. This could be a reaction video to your own video. This could be kind of sharing a story that kind of introduces your audience to the fact that this new episode is coming up, where you'll dive into a little bit more. Item number 4 is use behind the scenes videos. Like, people love to see the get ready. Now, granted, I've talked about like doing a get ready with me for a content day. But quite frankly, I'm not an influencer. So this whole channel is based off of the work we do here at Adode Media. So I feel like, that's probably not for me. But I think this really works when you are building an audience, building a tribe, building a community around your podcast. And it makes a difference because people feel like, oh my God, I use that same lipstick. And it's like, oh girl, where'd you get yours from? Next up is posting fresh content. And that means like staying up to date. I know it can be daunting, but once you pick your one platform, you want to perfect it. Stay consistent. I remember, no, I wouldn't recommend this, but I remember when I was first like building my brand before I had the studio and everything else. I remember being admitted to the hospital and I was like, must schedule my content. I wouldn't go that far, but dedication, it matters. Item number 6 is reach out to other podcasters for cross collaborations, but also recommending other shows. Because here's the thing, even if I don't reach out to you for a cross collaboration, if you recommended my show, I'm going to be more inclined to like share that with my audience. My audience will see like, oh wait, who's this person that recommended you? Let me go look at it. Same concept. It's still allowing for you to have that additional reach or an introduction to another show and their audience. And last but not least, engage with your actual audience. People want to feel connected to you. Podcasting and building a community around it is really the key to success and growth. Don't have your audience leaving comments on TikTok and you're not responding, you're not really engaging with people. If you recognize though that, okay, Anna, you've named like 7 different things, each time it feels like it's more things I have to do. Don't worry, here at Adode Media, we offer podcast production services, marketing services, as well as social media marketing. So myself and my team will be happy to take this off of your plate or even create a plan for you to where you and your team can manage it yourself. If you recognize that, hey, I do actually need some support, go ahead and reach out to us at adodemedia.com. That's ADODE media.com. Until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed this information and I can't wait to work with you.